Great. In the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Camaragal people, and I pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. Thank you for watching tonight's Meet the Candidate Forum for Central Ward. ITC has been covering numerous elections, and I have to let you know that this one is probably the most unique with the absence of the Liberal Party candidates. So tonight we're going to hear from each candidate. They're going to give us a 5-minute presentation, and then you will be able to ask them questions. The order of candidates will be Bridget Kennedy, Independent, Ken Quail, Labor, Kathy Bryla, Independent, and Caleb Taylor, Independent. We used a very advanced system of choosing the speaking order by taking strips of paper and pulling it out of a hat. All candidates were invited to the forum, but we just asked the lead candidates. However, you can see the rest of their team in our Meet the Candidates article that's on the front page on the website, and we'll put it, and the link is already in our chat. As I mentioned, each candidate has 5 minutes. At the end of the candidate presentation, I will put your questions to the candidates. Please put your questions in the chat, and each audience member can ask one question, and if we have time, we'll give people a chance to ask a second question. Please do not write anything in the chat that is offensive, derogatory, or defamatory, as you will be removed. Do not answer any questions on behalf of the candidate. Do not make any comments, just leave a question, as it makes that so much easier for us to moderate. However, the number one rule for tonight is respect. Please do not make any personal attacks via the chat about a candidate or another person. Putting your hand up for public office is daunting at any time. People will be expelled from the chat who break our moderation rule, but we will issue warnings. Most importantly, please put your questions to all candidates so that we're not taking individual candidate questions. We want everybody to have a chance so that we can talk about the big issues. So without further ado, I would like to ask Councillor Bridget Kennedy, who is the candidate and the current councillor, to start her 5-minute presentation.
Right. Thank you, Jackie. And thank you to everyone who's taken the time to be here tonight. The Lane Cove we love is the result of dedicated commitment by people who care deeply for this land and its people, the traditional custodians, the Camaragal people, and also local elders like Norma Stewart and Ron Gornell, the founding members of the Lane Cove Bushland and Conservation Society, who protected our bushland from developers 60 years ago, letting us enjoy nature close to Sydney's busy city centre today. Like them, I'm not a career politician, and I'm deeply committed to Lane Cove's people and environment. I ran for council in 2021 because as a Central Ward resident of nearly 25 years, a small business owner and a mother, I realised that to effect real change, I needed to advocate directly from within council. Building resilient, sustainable and connected communities is a passion reflected in my community work. I'm a founding member of our local Repair Cafe, which has been running since 2015. And I started the Sydney Edible Garden Trail, and I'm the instigator and co-founder of the volunteer-run Sydney Library of Things, which now has a Lane Cove branch opposite Harris Farm and oversees the new Lane Cove Toy Library. Recognition as Lane Cove Citizen of the Year in 2018 acknowledged a long history of community service. My career spans IT and banking to running a successful creative business for nearly 2 decades. I've served on the boards of the World Crafts Council of Australia, the Australian Design Centre and the Jewellers and Metalsmiths Association of New South Wales. From non-profits to arts businesses, these experiences highlight passion and drive, a blend of problem solving, business management and community engagement skills. As a business owner, I understand the challenges of small businesses and support local as a priority. All my material this campaign was printed here in Lane Cove. Look around and ask what other candidates have done. I walk the talk. And despite this being a shorter term, it's been productive. I've championed transparency and improved communication from the council, including the implementation of a new mobile-friendly website. And I fought to protect bushland and waterways and have ensured that the rebuild of Lucretia Baths is on the agenda and led the push for a dedicated multi-purpose theatre space for our creative community. Sustainability and net zero emissions have been central to my decision-making. Community feedback informs my policies. I don't believe in party politics in local government, and I'm not building a career towards state or federal. I'm here for you. I'll always fight for our community and ask hard questions. I'm committed to community engagement, whether through the usual channels, councillor in the plaza events, or my monthly craft and coffee in the Cove. This July, my team surveyed local residents across broad demographics, which identified 5 key local issues: reliable and connected local transport, protection of bushland and waterways, transparency and accountability in council decision-making, and adequate infrastructure to support increasing housing density and improved recycling and waste management. These priorities will guide future efforts. Enhancing community access to swimming pools, maintaining shared open spaces for dogs and sports groups, and exploring support options such as food pantries for those facing financial challenges are all important goals. It's important to maintain and enhance our natural bushland. I've engaged with staff and the community on stormwater and sediment issues and will continue to push for a strategic review of how we can protect our waterways. We must mitigate climate change impacts, and I'll continue to advocate for initiatives such as community batteries and rebates to help our community reduce to local CO2 emissions. We also need to be smart on waste. Effective waste management is crucial. Costs are really rising, and innovative waste management approaches are needed, such as children's clothing swaps, improved recycling, and food waste processing innovations like biodigesters, which will be pursued to support a waste-to-resource economic model. Efficient removal of food organics from our waste streams also remains a key goal. And to address concerns about decision-making transparency, I'll advocate for strategies like citizen assemblies for broader engagement. This term, we implemented a council resolution tracker, which I think Jackie will be pleased about, and I'll continue to advocate for accountability and timely and transparent reporting on major projects to mitigate risk and potential cost blowouts and seek opportunities to collaborate with neighbouring councils on initiatives. With rising local density, smart development that balances the need of people and the environment is crucial, and advocating for sustainable upgrades to council-owned buildings and affordable housing in new developments will be a focus. Recent public transport changes have been problematic, and Councillor Flood and I have already proposed investigating a community shuttle bus to fill gaps, and our bike plan needs reviewing and activation. While door knocking, some traffic rat runs in Central Ward have been identified, which we need to look at, and there are some accessibility issues for residents who are sight impaired, so it's important to look at improved wayfinding. There's much we can achieve together to preserve.
That's time, so if you could wrap up.
Yes, there's much to achieve together to preserve and enhance what we love about Lane Cove. And if you want a strong, independent council with integrity and dedication to our local community, I'd love your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bridget. We're now going to hear from Ken Quail, who is an ALP candidate. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Jackie, for organising tonight, and thank you, fellow candidates, for participating. Great to see that Central Ward has a full turnout. And thank you to the audience for taking interest. Local government's really important. And I'd also like to thank my running partners for the Labor Central Ward ticket, Lynn Nazir and Bronwyn Dean. I haven't been an incumbent, and so many people don't know me. So I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about myself, and then I'd like to take you through some of our lead policies. I grew up in Melbourne, went to uni and then worked for 6 years. I worked at CSIRO in Canberra and then moved back to Melbourne and worked for the Australian Wheat Board. I then moved to Sydney to do a PhD, and after completing that, I moved into Lane Cove some 30 years ago. With my partner, Liz, we've raised our 2 children, now adults. The kids went to local childcare, Lane Cove Public School. They participated in community sport, danced, did Girl Guides and Cubs. I was a soccer and cricket coach and a cub leader over that period. During that time, I continued to work in agriculture. This included a period as CEO of an organisation of 50 professional staff. I've recently dropped my work back to 3 days a week, and I'm really loving that. I volunteer with the State Emergency Service, and by coincidence, there was a call out to Lucretia Avenue tonight, which I turned down so that I could attend this. But I'm also president of Lane Cove Labor. I joined Labor as it aligns with my values of inclusion and greater equity. Now I'd like to take you through some of our policies. Labor proposes a social resource centre to assist youth, elderly and those in need of help. The centre would provide up-to-date advice and connect those in need to appropriate services. The aim would be to help make this more accessible and save people from getting lost down the rabbit holes of the web, so that we want to make that help really accessible with real people that they can contact. Labor wants to see more resources for women and children escaping domestic violence by supporting options for emergency housing and medium-term accommodation. We will advocate to state and federal programs for more specialised caseworkers for children on the North Shore. There's an acute shortage of those specialist workers across New South Wales, and in particular, children on the North Shore are really missing out on those services. Labor supports increased housing. We want well-planned, medium-density housing with affordable options. We need homes for young people, for teachers, nurses, aged care and childcare workers. People should be able to live near transport and near where they work. With good planning, Lane Cove can increase housing options. Lane Cove Labor supports an ambitious net zero emissions target. One of the actions to achieve this will be the support of strata solar plans. Imagine Burns Bay Road with solar on the roofs of all those units feeding into community batteries. This would lower energy bills for those living in the units and allow them to participate in lowering emissions. Now, it seems that everyone appears to support the new Sport and Recreation Centre, which will be amazing when it's finished towards the end of 2025. But we can't stop there. We need to keep moving. 19 years ago, when I was coaching soccer at Blackman Park, we were talking about the need for club rooms. So many people use that park for sport, and still there are no club rooms. We urgently need a Blackman Park master plan and Burns Bay Reserve master plan. We also need to keep exploring options for more sporting fields. I'm a passionate cyclist. I'm both a commuter and a recreational cyclist. Last year, I completed an event called the Hunt 1000 from Melbourne to Canberra, mostly on gravel roads. Labor will strongly support the delivery of the bike plan with safer cycling options. We support active transport more generally and want to address safer footpaths as a priority. And while we're talking transport, we want more public transport to connect Lane Cove. We know that the opening of the excellent new metro has impacted some bus services and solutions need to be found. Lane Cove has beautiful bushland and access to waterways. We have a responsibility to protect and improve these assets. Labor is supporting the upgrade of the Lucretia Street baths, and we need safe water quality if they're to be used. My last one for tonight. Labor are proposing a summer night food market. For those of you who remember the North Sydney noodle markets, they were a Friday night institution. We used to take our family there on a regular basis. Let's start something similar in Lane Cove and use local businesses as much as possible, attract people here, and there is nothing like sharing food to help bring people together. Lane Cove is a fabulous place to live. I'm not surprised.
That'd be great.
Not surprised it was placed first in New South Wales in the 2023 livability census. We are privileged to live here and have an opportunity to show leadership in how our community can work together and to lead sustainability programs to care for our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Sorry to cut you off there at the very end. Who's next? Kathy Bryla, over to you. Kathy, you've got to unmute. There you go.
Sorry, start again. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I would like to begin by thanking ITC for organising this event and to everyone in our community who has taken the time to join us tonight. 12 years ago, my family and I moved into our home in Riverview, and I count myself lucky to be living in Lane Cove, which has so many reasons to enjoy living here. For those who haven't met me, I was elected as a councillor in 2021, and I'm running again in the upcoming election as an independent who is committed to representing the community voice in local government. Alongside my role with Lane Cove Council, I am an architect and I run my own business focusing on sustainable building practices. I'm passionate about using my architectural skills to support charities such as the Union of International Architects, where I'm involved currently in the Community Architecture and Human Rights program. In addition, I hold a position on the Sutherland Shire Design Review panel. Since moving to Lane Cove, our family has embraced community life. Our son attended St Michael's and spent many years with the Lane Cove Football Club. I volunteer with the Lane Cove Bush Care at Tamborine Bay Reserve and help out with the first Lane Cove Scouts. Before we discuss what's ahead, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on a couple of great things I have achieved working together with my fellow councillors and the council staff over the past 2 years. We've achieved a lot in this short term of local government. I'm proud of the changes that were implemented to the new sports and recreation facility at the beginning of this term, and this was a direct response to community concerns which were voiced to me in the last election campaign. The facility now will have solar panels and a battery. The building user requirements will reflect a broader community consultation process, and we saved the bushland precinct at the top of the site on Stevenson Street. The other achievement I'll mention is the implementation of a revised development control plan, which updated sustainability guidelines, paving the way for more eco-friendly and health-conscious development in our area. It is a groundbreaking planning document and one that has led other councils to follow. So what has the community told me they want done over the next 4-year term? First, to strengthen the connection between council and the community voice. I've heard concerns that our surveys are not user-friendly and should be reviewed. We should seek community input and expert advice to create a more effective approach. And in early 2024, the council moved the public forum to a different night other than the monthly meeting night. You have told us that this was not a popular change, and I'll push to reinstate the forum on the same night as ordinary council meeting. Secondly, we must continue to take climate change seriously. We've made significant progress in helping homes transition to solar, and I'm now focused on extending these efforts to existing businesses and apartment buildings in Lane Cove. I will continue to advocate for converting the whole of the sport and recreational building roof into an urban solar farm with more PV panels and a community battery, which would generate income, provide cheaper energy, and support a cleaner environment. With increased rainfall causing more damage and flooding, I will raise again in council the need to have urban sensitive stormwater design to capture water on site rather than directing it through concrete pipes. Additionally, I will continue to push for stronger sediment controls at construction sites to reduce water pollution. And thirdly, to ensure we protect what we love about Lane Cove. Lane Cove is valuable community buildings, but many require updating and maintenance. We need to look after these assets to prevent costly repairs in the future and continue to make them fit for the purpose of the community that uses them. The Lucretia Baths in Longueville have been neglected for too long. In the next term, we need to restart this project. Our bushland is cherished, but requires ongoing care, including bush track maintenance, weed control, and regeneration support. Resources for this are always limited. The ongoing conflict between sports users and dog owners needs a balanced solution. I propose establishing a moderated committee to address this, drawing on my experience with the dog committee in the past term. And with population growth, traffic and safety issues are increasing in Central Ward. Like the recent North Ward traffic study, we need a similar plan for Central Ward. The Lane Cove Bike Plan, which was completed in 2019, hasn't been fully implemented, and we should prioritise completing this plan to improve and make safe for our bicycle community. There are substantial changes being proposed to our local environment plan by the New South Wales State Government, and I want to be advocating to keep our village centre scale and including a consistent and formalised affordable housing policy in Lane Cove. I've spent one term on council and built the experience and knowledge needed to make an even greater impact. Along with my existing professional skills, I've completed the training for elected councillors at UTS, participated in multiple council committees, and learned from a wide range of community voices.
Hi, Kathy, if
I
you
will
don't mind,
remain
if you
I will
could,
remain committed to actively serving our committee, listening, asking questions, and striving to shape a positive future for Lane Cove. I'd appreciate your support on election day, and I look forward to your questions.
thank you, Kathy. Caleb, bring it
Thank
home. Caleb is our last speaker.
Yes, hi, good evening. Well, yes, hello everyone, and thank you for taking the time to come along tonight. I'm Caleb Taylor, and I'm running as a community-committed, future-focused, independent candidate for Lane Cove and Central Ward, advocating for the best interests of residents like yourself with both immediate priorities and long-term goals in mind. And I'm standing alongside Ian Bow and Sarah O'Donnell as a true independent group of candidates. Our current council is divided, both among its members and from council staff, resulting in significant challenges, delayed progress for our residents and ratepayers over the past 3 years. Like you, I want the best for our area and our community. My focus will be on bringing the right people together to take the right actions, ensuring the needs of all residents are heard, considered, and met. I bring forward-thinking leadership and collaborative teamwork that prioritises and balances those needs effectively. As a local resident raising my young family with my wife in Lane Cove, I'm deeply committed to our community. I live and work in Lane Cove Council area, and my son is a Lane Cove Public School student. For the past 6 years, I've been actively volunteering with various Lane Cove community groups and associations, including local sporting organisations. I'm dedicated to staying involved and making a difference. The more I became ingrained in our community, the more my passion for giving back grew, leading to me to take on more roles. This strong connection to Lane Cove has compelled me to seek a greater opportunity to serve, which is why I'm running for a position as councillor. I believe I have more to contribute and would be honoured to represent our community. I have a background in event and hospitality management, and as a trade qualified chef, I'm currently the kitchen manager at Redham Early Learning School, which is in St Leonard's in Lane Cove East Ward, giving me experience working with council and council staff from the perspective of a resident, volunteer, and professional. I'm also proud to represent several organisations within our community, including being the PNC President and School Council Committee member for Lane Cove Public School. I've helped deliver their resurfaced courts with lighting, a new kindy playground, and technology upgrades, and I've also organised events like the annual Multicultural Food Fair. I'm also the Head of Community Relations for the annual Lane Cove Fun Run, Lane Cove Public's biggest fundraiser. I work closely with council, residents, schools, local businesses, and organisations to help deliver the fun run. As a committee member for Northern Sydney District Council of PNC Associations, I advocate for PNC associations across the North Shore with the PNC Federation and the New South Wales Department of Education to deliver better outcomes for schools. As a committee member on the Repair Cafe, I support the smooth running of cafes with various items repaired, breaking the cycle of buy, use, and toss it out. And as a member of the Lane Cove Council Festival Committee, I advise the council on direction and delivery of the annual Lane Cove Festival and volunteer to help run community events throughout the month. And also, as part of Stringybark Creek Residents Association, I help bring the community together through events like Clean Up Australia Day and advocate for residents' interests. My commitment to community service was recognised in New South Wales Parliament when I received the Lane Cove Volunteer of the Year Award for 2022 for the member from Lane Cove. So now I want to share my action plan for Lane Cove with consultation from residents over the many years. The 6 key areas are transparency in council. My aim is to ensure that council operates transparently and collaboratively. We avoid party politics and group blocking votes we've seen in the past to work together more effectively, and that includes improved relations with council staff. 2, creating spaces for our community. I'll implement a comprehensive strategy to create more outdoor spaces, including Ninja Warrior style exercise courses, bike and scooter tracks, pickleball courts, and multi-purpose outdoor courts with additional parking at Burns Bay Reserve. I'll also open the master plan for Blackman Park to community consultation so we can get the ball rolling down there on more infrastructure. 3, supporting residents and family. I'll introduce affordable or free council-operated school holiday events, increase USH spaces at Lane Cove Public School, and expand Synergy Hours offerings. I'll also organise quarterly Bark in the Park events for dog owners. 4, the environment. I'll explore the option for 2 annual Vergeside collections, remove the new call-out fee for trees, and establish coffee cup recycling stations and technology and stationary recycling hub. I'll also increase funding for bush regeneration programs. 5, supporting local businesses. I'll establish an annual Lane Cove Food Festival, introduce a Lane Cove Business Month, and collaborate further with Lane Cove Chamber of Commerce to bolster support for our local businesses.
Hi, Caleb, that's time. If you could wind up, that'd be great.
Yep. And then the last one, transport, traffic and roads, which is a big issue at the moment. I'll host quarterly public town hall meetings on traffic, roads and local transport, establish a resident and council traffic advisory committee, advocate for improved bus services and prioritise pedestrian road safety. So I have a long track record of working with different stakeholders in our community and delivering the best outcomes for residents. I ask for your support this election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caleb. Really appreciate that. Right, we're going to get into some questions. As I said, if you're going to pose a question, can you make it a bit shorter because there's some PhD summaries there of questions, and if you can make sure that they're there for every candidate, and please do not make any comments on behalf of the candidates. It's up for them to do it. Okay, so I'm going to randomly select people to ask the questions, and we're going to go with the first one, and that is about transport. And the question is, several candidates have mentioned in their policies the implementation of a community shuttle bus. How will you do this and what is the cost? Ken, would you like to start with that?
Yeah. So I think that, one of the things we've seen is a change in the bus services as a result of the metro, and that stopped some of the links from, say, Greenwich to the Lane Cove shops, etc. We also have probably some new requirements for public transport. I think that the Sport and Rec Centre is going to need some transport between major hubs to make it useful for kids to be able to travel without needing cars to shuttle them to and from the centre. So I think that there's options to both lobby the state government to replace or put back some of the services that they were offering, but also the concept of local shuttles is an interesting one that would need a business plan to explore its use. I think it has attractive options because we could probably go electric. We don't need the giant buses that the government services operate, and so it can probably be much more efficient. But we would need to look at what the costs look like and what the usage of that looked like. It wouldn't necessarily be a free shuttle service. I think user pays in this type of circumstance is appropriate, but it's going to need a business plan to work that through. My starting point would be to work with the state government to see what we can land in terms of supporting better public transport.
Thank you, Ken. Kathy, would you like to answer that question?
Great, thanks. Yes, it is something that we discussed in a meeting, I think it was 2 months ago, and there were several options, and I think it's a really, really important one to get rolling in the new term. The funding is going to be the challenge here though, and there are options to either look at having some support from, if it's business related, community services related, or whether there has to be a small charge possibly to the users, and combined possibly with even seeking some other funding from state grants, if that is an option as well. But either way, we'll rely on the council staff for their expertise and their guidance if we get this motion up.
Thank you, Caleb.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and there's definitely been challenges along buses. I've been having those challenges at Lane Cove Public School with sport. Early in the year, I was lobbying for buses with the pricing being so high that now school sport has been cancelled to gala days. So I've been exploring with the CEO of Sydney Community Services, who they have shuttle buses that they use, and they don't use them all the time. So I've been, working with them to see what we could get in that regard, for sport, and looking at those peak hour times of having a shuttle service as well. So there wouldn't be a huge expenditure layout if we were to go down that road. But I'd also have to, look at options as well, moving forward, if that wasn't viable to put a business case together. So yeah, I think now that we've got the metro, we need to have a look at what the services are and where the gaps are, and then look where we can plug those gaps, and lobbying the state government or working with community groups and the council together as a collaborative to get the best outcome for our community.
Thanks, Caleb. Bridget?
Thank you for that question, Jackie. So the idea of a community shuttle bus actually came up very early around when we were looking at the Sport and Rec Centre and options there, and when we were having to close the golf, and how we were going to manage golfers to and fro. And so I suggested actually that we look at exploring a community shuttle bus for just the golfers, to see if we could transport, them to and from the golf course from the Little Street car park. So there were initial conversations then. Councillor Flood and myself actually put up a notice of motion in, I think it was the July meeting, to formally explore, investigate the options for a community shuttle bus. So this actually is already in action, and to come back to our next corporate planning weekend with some ideas. In the past, there are other councils that do use shuttle buses, and some of them are funded by particular developers or businesses. So one idea that we had was around looking at business sponsorship for the shuttle buses. Obviously, state grants is something that council does rely on for a lot of initiatives these days. One of the other things that's going on is that we have got these problems with the loss of our bus services and the links, particularly between Greenwich and Lane Cove. But we also have issues on the peninsulas where there is a lack of connection between the peninsulas and our sort of CBD and other community centres. So I don't know if it's still out for consultation, but there was a peninsula study looking at bus routes that could be explored, and we could advocate to state to actually get some more routes going through those peninsulas, and like a hub and spoke model that comes back into the centre. So the actual shuttle bus motion idea is actually progressing, and we will have a report back to council in the new council term. Whoever's elected will make the decision as to what options and how we move forward. So staff are actually working on it right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Okay. The next question, and we're going to try and canvass as many different areas as possible. The next question is about trees and the environment. One can see many widowmaker trees on roads that have been badly pruned to cater for overhead cables. What are the candidates' views on some relaxation of the Lane Cove Council's views re tree removals and pruning to make Lane Cove a safer place for all of us to live? And Bridget, while I've got you there, we might as well start with you.
Oh, that's a curly one, isn't it, Jackie? Because trees can be so divisive. I think we all love Lane Cove because it's lovely and leafy, and we want it to be like that. And then we have the issue with trees. So I think trees are really, really important for a number of reasons for our urban environment. The street trees, my understanding, are pruned by different contractors for utilities to ensure that utilities are maintained, and they're pretty much hacked around. I think we should be keeping any trees that we can keep within reason. There are trees that do have to come down, and council does have a tree policy. It has an urban forest strategy. It has particular exemptions for trees that are on a particular exempt species list. We also have applications for valid and concession card holders to help with maintaining trees. I mean, I have a huge tree. Well, it's dead now, unfortunately, but I have kept it as a remnant tree with habitats. But one of the things is with trees is that you do need to maintain them, just like you need to maintain houses. You can't expect a tree to be there and have dead branches and keep those dead branches there. They're not going to, they're going to fall off. That's just part of nature. And I think that partly what we do need is education around how we manage our trees and how we do it safely to reduce the risk of, you know, like we would with a building that wasn't maintained properly, it becomes a risk. The other thing that we do have, which I'm still trying to find out more about, is that we have a significant tree policy, and other councils have started to activate this. So this is around when you have a tree on your property, which is considered a certain size and canopy, and you can register it on the as a significant tree. Now, at the moment, I can't see any point why someone would want to register a tree as a significant tree, because then they really can't do anything about it, and there's no reason to do it. But I think if we can change things around and have people see trees as being the custodians of trees and provide an actually incentive. So like if you have a significant tree and you get it registered on this tree register, then council could provide a discount to, you know, an arborist to come and check it, or discount on pruning, or discount on fees to actually help you look after this tree, this really, really important tree canopy, because it's one of the things I think, you know, people are very quick to want to cut down trees. But one of the things that can happen, and it did happen in my place, which was the canopy of my tree covered the whole of my backyard and half my neighbour's backyard.
Can I get you to wind up the...
Yeah, sorry. What I'm just saying is that if you cut down a tree, it can create other problems, because trees manage stormwater retention. So your house can then become unstable because you've cut the tree down.
Okay.
So, you know, it's a complex situation.
Yes. Caleb.
Yes, just unmute. Yeah, sorry, can you just repeat the question? Bridget's response was so long, yeah.
Yes, it was. One can see many widowmaker trees on roads that have been badly pruned to cater for overhead cables. What is the candidate's view on some relaxation of the Lane Cove Council's policies, tree removal and pruning, to make Lane Cove a safer place for all to live?
Yeah, look, that's a good question, and door knocking and talking to a lot of residents, that's one of the key issues that comes up. And look, we love Lane Cove. It's very leafy. That's one of the reasons that attracted me to move here and raise my family. But at the end of the day, if a tree's dangerous or causing a threat, it needs to be looked into, and there needs to be less red tape on that, to allow residents to be able to not have to worry whether the tree's going to fall on their house or fall on them. Or, you know, we've had a lot of wind lately and storms, and there's a lot of broken branches around. I had one out the front of mine. And with the young family, safety is paramount, obviously, and we need to ensure that residents are safe, but we also need to ensure that we keep our greenery. So we don't want to see trees just getting, you know, cut down or knocked down. We need, you know, some real positive thinking on that, and ensure that residents feel safe, but also keeping our canopy.
Thank you, Cal. Kathy.
Wow, it's kind of hard to follow those two because a lot has been said. I agree with both the previous candidates in that it's a complicated question. We have beautiful trees. I don't want to see any of our trees lost unnecessarily. We also have currently council staff who assess the trees. The arborists are key to knowing what can be trimmed and what can't be trimmed. But yeah, there could be room when it comes to a dangerous situation for this to be reviewed. I'm not an arborist though, so I would be relying still on experts that do know what can be trimmed without causing, I suppose, injury to that tree and that tree system to keep it healthy and keep it alive. So yeah, I'm open to trees being trimmed if it's required by the residents more for safety, but not in the case where the trees would then actually be damaged to the point of dying. I might keep mine simple and quick then.
Okay, thanks. Ken.
Thank you.
Well, clearly safety is really important. Working with the SES, we do see some fairly significant trees come down, and that they land on houses, and that does happen. But having done a lot of letterboxing in Central Ward over the last couple of weeks, I don't think I see many trees, street trees, that I would consider a threat. I think I would actually comment that I think they're remarkably healthy, and we really need to be very careful in managing our tree canopy. We only have to look at the incident in Woodford Bay, which was a shocking loss of trees and vegetation, very unnecessarily and illegally. And so any of these decisions need to be made with great care, and as Kathy said, by expert arborists, and we have those skills within council, and we can easily manage that and make sure that there aren't unsafe street trees. So I think if any residents are concerned about particular trees, they should raise it directly with council and get those inspected. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Our next question is going to be about traffic. Traffic and parking issues continue to be major issues in Lane Cove, e.g. the canopy parking on Saturdays, soccer training nights at Blackman's, Longueville Road, peak hour traffic. What are the candidates' view on alleviating these issues? And I think we'll start with you, Caleb, this time.
Yes. No, look, I think Lane Cove's, with the canopy and a lot of attractiveness of the area, it's drawn a lot of people, and we do have a real traffic challenges at the moment, and rat runs which happen around the canopy, especially. So we need to really look into what we can do to alleviate that, and look at some sort of future focused traffic planning in that regard. And that's why I want to introduce a resident and council traffic committee and host quarterly public town hall meetings, so that these issues can be put together and we can collaboratively work together as a community and work out some real solutions on this moving forward, because there will be more challenges ahead with the proposed median density. So we really need to start looking at the future infrastructure and working together to look at what we can do to alleviate this issue.
Sorry,
next.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great. I was a chair for the first half of term of the Lane Cove Traffic Committee, which we already have a traffic committee. We actually reinstated the voice of the community at the traffic committee, which was a great improvement in this current term. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but community can now register to speak at the traffic committee. The traffic committee is quite a complex committee. Unlike some of our other committees, it's made up of the New South Wales Police, representatives from the state government, and from our local council team, as well as a councillor, a chair, and then the community can come in. It is a growing concern, particularly in Central Ward. That traffic committee in the past 2.5 years has done a really thorough study for Lane Cove North, and that is now starting to be implemented, and it's got state funding. I would be proposing that we do the same thing in Central Ward. It could be a fairly similar process. It seems to have been thorough and is going through the steps now of being implemented in North Ward, so we could take that as an example here. I think a few other things that are a bit of flags to me might be some more. There's a proposed new development for Central Ward that is going to come to a DA soon near the canopy. I'm really concerned about that because it's for a 400-seat auditorium. Even though there is a case to have that auditorium, they're putting in only 50 car parks. And the answer to where would all the parking for the 400-seat auditorium so far to us has been that they would use the canopy. So I see that as a real concern, considering the canopy is already stressed on the weekend, and this would be primarily for use possibly on the weekend, Friday, Saturday and Sunday nights. And I would hate to see that be an impact on the businesses of the canopy. So yeah, it's definitely something on my radar. I was speaking to a local resident 2 streets away from me just this week who was saying about the congestion and the safety issues in Riverview. My son actually got hit by a car in Riverview about 6 months ago coming down Roaring Road. So it's something very close to my heart. And I definitely firsthand seen how speed and the rat running is actually causing some real concerns in Central Ward. So I would be focused on progressing with how we can address it, primarily through the traffic committee and through the council staff team to start off with, and then going out to the community. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Bright. You said a lot of what I was going to say. We actually made a change this council term to allow residents to present to the traffic committee directly, and I think this is the best forum for that, because as Kathy said, there's experts on that team, and experts with a lot of knowledge and across state police and local government. And I too have this concern around this proposed performance space, which is a 400-seater, and we'll be having people, you know, it's not a local. It's not necessarily just for locals. It's a regional performance space, regional use. So there will be people bringing people in from the outside into the area. And yes, we've been told that the canopy is one of the expected uses for the parking. So I really think we need to be looking into that more seriously. I too went door knocking, discovered some rat runs. I mean, William Edward Street is one in particular that people were concerned about, with the sharp corners and the speed at which people run down that street. The traffic staff actually had previously done a traffic study, but there were some issues with it. So I think we need to look at Central Ward in the same way that we have been looking at West Ward, and do a complete focused traffic review in that area, and taking into consideration the increases in traffic due to this proposed performance-based auditorium, should it go through, but also the residential aged care and the seniors living developments up near the where Kenneth Street and River Road and Longueville Road meet, and of course also the Sport and Rec as well, which will add increased traffic and parking problems to the area. So yes, I think we need to do a total strategic review of it.
Thanks, Bridget. I think you thought I said Kennedy when I was saying Ken. So Ken.
Thank you. So I think the problem described in the question, and it's a really pertinent question for what Lane Cove is facing at the moment, because it's such a popular place, and you know, the canopy, the plaza are just incredibly popular, and so we are seeing traffic congestion. We're also seeing rat runs and traffic speed issues and things, and they're quite kind of separate issues. The congestion one, I think, goes back to the big picture that we were talking about earlier around sustainability, but also different forms of transport. If everyone's constantly getting in their cars, and we're just going to have more people getting in their cars, we're going to have congestion. The only way to change that will be to build bigger roads, and that's going to destroy Lane Cove. So I strongly support more public transport, and the options of buses to connect Lane Cove, and to provide those options for people to move around our community. The active transport we've talked about, improving it for pedestrians, improving bike access and making it safer, is all going to contribute to reducing congestion. Not everyone can cycle, I understand, but the more that we can get people out into active transport and public transport, the less that congestion will be. The rat runs is quite a different issue, and that does require the sort of community consultation to come up with solutions to address the particular streets that are affected by that, and to come up with the various types of options that allow either traffic calming, changing traffic speeds and things to manage that better. We want safe streets. That's just shocking to hear that Kathy's son was hit by a car, and I understand that it's quite an issue in Riverview. You've got a very large school down the end of that peninsula, and it hits those really busy periods that can create issues, and that needs to be better managed. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. I'll get you down the line because this is something that you touched on, so we might as well keep going with you. Transport. Is there anything our council can do to ensure that bus connections are more frequent? We have also lost some buses, and the fact that they sometimes do not arrive makes access to the city hard. Difficult considering we want more people to use public transport. So in a nutshell, what can council do to make sure we've got more buses?
So, this is it's challenging for all of Sydney, because I know that Sydney buses is having some difficulty getting enough drivers and maintaining services. But what we need to do is lobby hard for those services. It needs to be a very concerted push. I think that one of the advantages of having Labor in council is that we have a Labor state government, and I think that we have an opportunity to have a better hearing to put that case to maintain our transport. Late buses and things like that, that's a sort of a bit more of a day-to-day issue. But in terms of the number of services and the plan to increase public transport across the North Shore is, I see, a really significant, worth a lot of significant effort for council to push for and to make our case strongly.
Thank you, Ken. Kathy, could you address that question about what council can do for more buses?
Well, yes, I think it's mostly about advocating to the state government. I would hope the state government doesn't give their own a better hearing than anyone else, though, in council, as in Labor to Labor. But yeah, I would hope that they're going to listen to any council team or to our general manager, who would go forward and has already been going forward. We have been, for the last 6 months, writing letters, requesting meetings and putting forward a strategy to advocate for a repair to our buses. And currently we have a helpline, so to speak, to report when bus incidences occur, because we are trying to collect the data so that we can have, a firmer case when we go and talk to the State Transport Department. It's becoming a bigger issue, and I think it's really already on our radar, and we just need to keep pushing the government to hope that they're going to improve the situation. It's not like council's going to become a provider of buses at that level, though.
Thank you, Caleb.
That's really it for now.
Caleb.
Yes, just unmuting my. Look, yeah, this is a real big challenge at the moment, and it's I think it's one of the top challenges at the moment, and it's affecting people every day, unfortunately. What can council do? Well, just keep advocating very hard on this issue. I've found along the line with being PNC president that sometimes the squeaky wheel does get the oil. I lobbied New South Wales Department of Education to get the builders back to complete our hall that was, still not complete now 4.5 years later. But out of lobbying very hard for that with the community and getting the community behind me, we got them back, and now we will be having a completed hall in the next couple of months, which is great. So look, lobbying on this will be at the forefront, I think, to push state government that we really do have an issue here. We've heard that they have bus driver shortages, but at the end of the day, it's a privatized operation. The company is trying to make money, and they're cutting services, and we need our services back. So I will be lobbying hard as an elected councillor if elected, and getting the community to push and keep reporting these challenges we have so we can move forward and get some better outcomes for our community.
Thank you, Caleb. Bridget.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. Well, I think, I mean, everyone's pretty much said what I was going to say, but I do have a couple more ideas. And that is that, yes, I think it's important to lobby to state government, and we are doing that. And we do have a website, and I don't know if the moderator can put that link in the chat, but we do have a link where we're really asking people that are having problems with delays or cancellations, and they put that into the council website, and that gets sent to the state government. We can lobby our state members, but we could also, for example, have a really strong community education program to really encourage people to know about the website and to know to actually put in their complaints, because I meet a lot of people and they don't know that this is available to them. They complain about the issues that they have, but they don't know that actually we are gathering all of that information. So council could actually do more potentially as far as educating and communicating to our community about what we are doing. And another, it's a bit left of field, and I did attempt this with a tree petition and increasing the fines, is we could actually, as a community, generate a state petition. So a petition to the state government, the parliament, and see if we can actually get 20,000 signatures and get it presented to Parliament. So we could actually come at it from different angles. So come at it from a you know, a governance level, but also come at it from a community level, and get our community as well to really, really make a statement about this. That's my
Thank you. Thank you, Bridget. The next one we're going to talk about is finances. All the promises that that set out for festivals, shuttle buses, Blackman Park, cost ratepayers money, yet it seems to have been spent on the sport and rec, which is now over 7 million over budget. How are we to fund these new projects? Caleb.
Yes. Yeah, look, that's a challenge, you know. Yeah, we've got the Sport and Rec Centre currently that we're in desperate need of, and which is great that's going ahead, but it's well over budget now to what it was originally imagined as, which is challenging because that has taken away the opportunity for you know, funding to go elsewhere. So, you know, look, we need to work out what the priorities are within council, work with council, and to deliver these projects financially over the you know, coming term in council. And you know, I'd work collaboratively with council staff and councillors to work on the best way forward to prioritise these activities and to work collaboratively to deliver them for the community.
Thank you, Caleb. Ken.
Not being an incumbent, I'm not really up to date with the detail of council's finances, but I understand that there was a loan taken of 10 million for the Sport and Recreation Centre for a budget the size of Lane Cove's council. You know, that's not a big loan. It's on a fixed interest rate, so I think that's reasonable to maintain. Council raises money through new developments, where money is put aside for community infrastructure, and so that will continue as we have more developments. I also think there are some really good opportunities for state and federal funding for some of the proposals that we've discussed, and hence the need to move quite quickly on, I think, particularly the Blackman Park master plan, because we're going to be coming up to a federal election next year, and Lane Cove is moving into Bennelong, which will be a fairly marginal seat, and so I think that creates all sorts of opportunities for Lane Cove to attract new funding support to assist some of these programs. But of course, in general, it's got to come down to good management of finances, and we'll do what we can within the budgets that we have. And but it's worthwhile stretching ourselves to deliver good infrastructure and also good services to the community as part of managing that budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Kathy.
Thanks, Jackie. This is a very important question. Being an incumbent, I am aware of the financial situation of Lane Cove in quite a lot of detail. We have stretched ourselves with the sport and recreation building. We are in our last financial report, which has been made to the public, and also in the long-term financial report, we're at cutting edge as far as finances go. Hence, my policies are very conservative as far as putting forward new projects. I'm aware that we have been told already by council staff who are experts in this area that we don't have money for new projects coming up. Maybe it could change with state funding or other grants, but we have things that we do have to finish, and we have got, there are assets we have to maintain, there are roads that we have to upgrade, there are footpaths that have safety issues. So there are still there's a budget for the things that we still need to maintain and keep going within our community. But as far as doing another major project, like we've just put forward for the sport and rec, we're really struggling with that. For instance, as an example, Lucretia Baths has a budget already, and we were told that we couldn't progress it until the sport and rec is finished. So there are already things on the back burner that have been now put on hold, which is unfortunate for the community in that area that had already been consulted, who've already been briefed on what they would be expecting in their local area, let alone new things to be put on the table. So, yeah, I think we're going to be in slightly different times in the upcoming period for council, and it's just good to be mindful of that. Thanks, Jackie.
Bridget.
Thank you, Jackie, for that question. Yes, I too am an existing councillor, and I just want to clarify, my understanding is that the sport and rec is actually at this stage only 6 million over budget, not 7, Jackie. Just want to clarify.
Thank you, Bridget. I didn't have the chance to check it, so thank you.
That's okay. And yes, so we do get developer contributions. They're called S711 funds. At the moment, a lot of the development's happening in St Leonard's South, and that fund is earmarked for development in that area. So it's not available for development outside or infrastructure projects outside the LGA. So we will be relying on grants, so on state and federal grants. And I think more and more that has happened over the way. I mean, obviously been a councillor only one term, but my understanding is that that has happened, and more often council doesn't have enough money to do what it needs to do. It has to ask state and federal government. We are stretched. I don't know if you listened to the last council meeting, but the head of finance did flag that we had some potential issues with the long-term financial plan, with maintenance of our assets. And of course, maintenance of our assets is really, really important. So again, if you look at my policies, they are not ambitious as far as costs go. And with the shuttle bus, for example, one of the things I particularly put up in the notice of motion in July was to explore things like sponsorship, because I think we really need to think creatively and think outside the square to make things happen, and use our existing assets and make the most of those in creative ways. Because every time we build a new asset, we then actually have to add that to the asset management plan, and that costs more money as well. So I think it's, one thing I have learned in my short term in council is that every decision is a complicated one.
Thank you, Bridget. I'll stay with you. One of the question is about social support and policies around the safety of women and children. Could you tell us what your policies are in relation to the safety of women and children in Lane Cove?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I actually don't have any specific issues, because I've always felt very safe here in Lane Cove as a woman, and my children have felt very safe here. It's one of the safest places I feel, actually. So I don't have a specific policy, but I'm sure that council council does, and if it doesn't, it's certainly something that I would look into creating. I know that, yeah, I guess that's the answer that I have. I didn't know it was a problem. If it is an issue, it hasn't come up in my dealings with council or with staff, and it's concerning if it is an issue, and we haven't heard about it.
Thank you, Bridget. Caleb?
Yeah, sorry, could you just repeat the question specifically?
Sure. Yeah. There's what policies do you have around the safety of women and children in Lane Cove?
Well, look, it's not a policy per se. It's I have a very strong relationship with Sydney Community Services. They are our charity partner through the PNC at Lane Cove Public School. So I often have meetings monthly with the CEO and staff and discuss, various community initiatives and the community itself and what we can do more as a joint partnership as a school and as the organisation. So look, I'd just be fostering that relationship further, and I haven't heard it's been a particular major issue as yet, but Sydney Community Services are very, good at handling these community situations and working within the community. So I would just be continuing my strong relationship with them and getting feedback and guidance from the professionals and what we would do moving forward if there was an instance of this arising.
Thank you, Caleb. Ken?
Thank you. I think there's probably, women and children's safety happens in two ways. There's outside in the community, but there's probably a lot more safety issues that seem to be happening in domestic violence, which is happening behind closed doors. Domestic violence is significantly underreported on the North Shore, and we're aware that that there is a significant amount of domestic violence in our Lane Cove area, unfortunately. And so I think it's something that we would be aware of from our national news in terms of the number of deaths that have been occurring as a result of domestic violence. It's a very significant issue across Australia, but it is something that we do experience here in Lane Cove, and it affects women and children. So Labor has put forward a policy to support more emergency and medium-term housing, to find creative solutions to address that, and also to promote the need for more specialist workers, particularly for children, as I mentioned earlier. The other thing that we mentioned was the creation of a resource centre, which, by the way, we don't expect to cost very much because we expect it to be largely volunteer run. Is that would be an opportunity for help and assistance for people finding themselves in those sort of situations. The new laws that have come in around coercive control are not well understood. And I think that there's opportunity to provide training and resources to help people recognise when they're in that circumstance, and therefore support these women and children who find themselves in these really difficult circumstances. Thank you. I should just add, it's also a state and federal issue, and we do need to work really closely with those state and federal programs too, because it's a rapidly changing space. And there will be opportunities, I think, to also engage at those levels. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Kathy?
Thank you. Yeah, I also feel very safe in Lane Cove, but I am aware that there is a rising incident in not just domestic violence and insecurity for women and children. I'm not sure how much of that is related to our community in Lane Cove, though, and I would want to be referencing to it locally. We are a local council, but if we need information as far as how we feed into the whole of the North Shore, we can work with NESRA to get data on that. But I actually agree with what Caleb said that we have a good community services system already, and if this is something that we need to branch out to them and give them support as a council to extend to, if it's a matter of resources, I'd be looking to use what we've already got within the community as far as staffing and resource availabilities. We already do give a lot of funding to the community services branch, and we could look at whether they need a bit more. We also have a great refuge, Davina, in Lane Cove, and again we support them already. So if it's a matter of working with them, as we already do work with them, to find better ways to support them, I'd be definitely advocating that we build on what we've already got. So yeah, I think there's two issues here. It's whether it's about just women and children's safety, or whether it's really about that greater level of extreme case with domestic violence and the growing need for support for that.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm going to stay with you because, and I know that I think we've probably touched on this, but dogs and sport.
Oh yeah, great.
Big one. Yeah, I know. There is toxic dogs v sports atmosphere within the community. If there were to be a change to access to shared spaces, how would it be handled?
So I'd just say I wouldn't be seeing it as a change to the access, but a change to the behaviour of use of shared spaces. So I am very keen for us to all still have access to these spaces, and the key word is to share them. But in the past term of council, and I think even before that, it's been coming more and more divisive in the issues between dogs and other people that use these green spaces, or dog owners, I should say, sorry, not dogs. And we have talked about and resolved within one of our council meetings to set up a community working group where we'll work through all the issues, a bit like they did with Bob Campbell Oval. There was all different people involved that covered the range and spectrum of the stakeholders in that facility. I would propose we do a similar sort of commitment, that we get every stakeholder who uses our open spaces together with someone to moderate it, because I have found that these meetings get very emotional and heated, and that we work towards a plan that's based a lot on education. There's education that is required within both our dog community and our sports community. There's a lot of complaints about the mess of dogs, and there are actually acts and rules in place for that, and we just believe that there's a way that we could probably be educating with not necessarily with a stick, but with leading people into taking more responsibility for their dogs when they're on these open spaces, and starting to mend possibly the misconception and the divisiveness that's come about between the two groups. So there's a lot in that question. Yeah, but we have started some of the work in council, I believe. It's been very inflamed. There was and there's reason for why it became such a emotional issue, really, because dogs are very close to us, and then also so are our kids who use these sports fields. So we've almost got to go back to scratch and get everyone in the room together and talking in a different way.
Thank you. Bridget.
Oh, thank you, Jackie, for that question. I just want to clarify, I misunderstood the last question. I thought it was around street safety. So, yeah, I do apologise for that. I misunderstood the actual question. I didn't realise.
Oh, the question didn't specifically say domestic violence.
Yeah, but that seemed to be what the intent of the question was. So, sorry, I did misunderstand the question. But going back to the dogs versus the sports situation, I think that the approach hasn't worked to date, and it does occur that, you know, we did this dog poo counting exercise, and I don't know, I've even done my own research to see how can you enforce, you know, how can you manage open spaces equitably? And you know, for me, it comes down to respect, and it comes down to respect not only of each other, but actually of the open space that we all share. And, you know, there could be things like, you know, we at a recent council meeting, we made a resolution to actually go back to a workshop and get a third party facilitator in, and to have all these groups engaged. And I think that in this situation, we could also explore something like a citizens' assembly, where we actually get a wide group of demographic, the demographic to come in and really, really nut out and come up with some creative solutions to this. It doesn't work. We need to all respectfully work with each other. We need to clean up our own litter. We need to clean up dog poo. We need to clean up other people's litter. We need to look after ourselves, and we need to look after our open spaces. And I think it comes down to respect. And I'm hopeful that we can actually find a way to move forward. I mean, this issue is not unique to this council. It's happening everywhere. It is a general council issue, and I know City of Sydney has issues with it, and other councils have issues with it. And, you know, sometimes it could be something like there's not enough signage, there's not enough litter bins, for example, for sporting people to pick up after themselves, or there's not. I mean, I attended the Dog Advisory Committee as an observer once, because I just wanted to get an idea of, I'm not the councillor rep, but I wanted to get an idea of just what was going on. And again, it's just this, we have a dog advisory and we have a sport advisory. And again, it's this sort of adversarial situation that doesn't seem to have really progressed. And yet with the Bob Campbell Oval master plan, and we had all the community groups in the same room together. We had the sporting people, we had the dog people, we had the nature and the conservation people. And it was actually a really fantastic example of how everyone came along on the journey and came along the ride and actually owned that space. And I believe there's a possibility of doing something like that, so that we can actually all work together to find a solution. Thank you.
Caleb.
Yeah, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, it's there's a toxic dogs versus sports atmosphere within the community. If there were to be a change to access to shared spaces, how would it be handled?
Yeah, look, it's been a challenging situation. I think it's created a divide which hasn't been needed. I don't think there should be or needs to be a divide there. We have lots of open space and sporting fields and dog parks, and we need to all work collectively together to share that space in the best way possible. You know, it's working together as collaboratively, you know, as in groups. Said you got two separate committees, of sports and a dog. Well, why not bring them together? That's what I find. When you bring people together, you can usually work through the challenges and come up with solutions that are going to best suit the community. And going out and getting community consultation and being open, a transparent council brings people together and makes them feel, you know, more wanting to share, I guess, in more of a way. And I think talking to a lot of the sporting groups, I've got a strong relationship with most of the club presidents for all the sporting organisations through the PNC and other various committees I'm on. And they all want to work together. They don't want no dogs, you know, they don't want to have this disjointed between the two groups. And I know the dog community don't want that either. So I think we need to get people together and work this out as a community and come up with a solution that's going to benefit the whole community to be able to share this space together as one.
Thanks, Caleb. Ken.
I think we're all largely on the same page here. Everyone using these spaces, whether it's our bushland spaces or our sports grounds, needs to recognise that it's a privilege to have these spaces, and they do need to care for them. So for responsible dog owners, I think that, you know, there's not an issue sharing these spaces. But it's when that breaks down, I guess. And similarly, from the sports perspective, we only have limited sports grounds, so we need to make sure that we come up with an effective solution to be able to share them. And I think that the council resolution to move forward with a facilitated residents panel that engages broadly, provides good information so that panel can make effective decisions, is a good way to move forward. and at the same time drive a major education around this whole thing, so that we bring people with us, and as Kathy said, lead people to effective solutions that allow it to work, because this shouldn't be the scale of issue that it is, and it's just terrible that it's causing such a divide. So hopefully we can work it through and all come to a happy ending. Thank you.
I'll stay with you, Ken. Just because it's easy. The next one is collaboration between councillors. This question is, I'd like to ask how candidates, if elected, will work together collaboratively. Oh my gosh, that's a big word. Rather than voting blocks, and to respect that their fellow councillors have also been elected by Lane Cove residents and have a legitimate right to have their views and interests represented. So really is how do you think councillors will work together, really is the question.
Well, I think it's a responsibility of all councillors to work together. That's the purpose of putting your hand up for this, is that you're essentially agreeing to join a council that needs to work together. That doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily agree on every point, but by treating each other with respect, by being prepared to work through the facts and the best information available, and listening, engaging with community effectively. I think all those things are an important part of the process of reaching open, transparent decisions that everyone can work with. But in terms of you described, one of the parts was describing as voting as a block. The way that Labor works is that we do work through significant issues as a party, and that is a community process. So our members are from the Lane Cove community, and we meet regularly on a monthly basis to discuss these issues. The most recent one I can remember was 14 Gay Street, and the discussion that we had around the table in the library for anyone could have been there to participate in that discussion and reach a conclusion that we totally supported that becoming bushland. So I think that the Labor process is one of community consultation, and obviously that needs to also happen across the rest of the councillors.
Thank you, Ken. Kathy.
Thank you, Jackie. Look, I think there's many factors in working together well as a team, and it is about respect. It is about listening to each other in the team. I actually found personally the whole major party caucusing was an issue with getting councillors to work together, because it meant that the members of the major party came into the room already with a decision possibly in mind before they listened to the community in the room and before they actually listened and debated with other councillors. So that, for me, was not a true representation of the community. It might be a true representation of the local party, but that local party in itself isn't a large membership cohort. So I do think as an independent, it does allow you to be truly out there with the community, not have to be accountable to a step before you get into council chambers. As far as working together too, I mean, it is complicated. We all come from very different backgrounds. It's not like a business where you come into the room with very similar skill sets or with an agenda to run a business together. We are from different backgrounds. We're not trained for this job. We really just passionate about our community. So it is a learning process on how you can work together, and it just has to be done in good faith and with a willingness to listen, to compromise in some respects, and to then, I think for me personally, I did find it was really helpful just to keep in touch with people outside of the council chamber, to keep in touch with the community that had got you there in the first place. And they could be so supportive, and they can really help you when it comes to working together under the pressure of being at a council meeting.
Thank you, Kathy. Caleb.
Yeah, look, as an independent, I'm not going to be tied to any specific party. And I do think everyone brings something different to the table, and we need to leverage each other's strengths and expertise. I'll take the time to listen to each person and understand their why, and encourage open, honest, and respectful conversations outside of council meetings. The answer is probably not what I think versus what other councils may think. It's actually probably something in the middle, and uncovering that or generating new ideas. The other thing I think is there's a real opportunity for councillors to connect as a people and as a team. And I'd like to suggest we could spend some time together to build that bridge first and foremost. The focus should be on the greater good and not on personal priorities, I believe. So yes, that's how I will tackle that.
Thank you. Bridget.
Thank you for that question. I agree with all three other candidates. I think Kathy, I hope you don't mind this, Kathy, but you have a unique perspective in that you were member of a major party for a little while and then an independent, and have seen, I guess, both sides of how things can work. I am an independent and I'm here to represent my community. And I think, yes, it comes to respect and it comes to being open to new ideas. I think, the messaging around voting as a block, there's a lot of messaging around that, and the messaging that the council is dysfunctional. But when you actually look at the statistics, we have got an incredible amount of work done, and there haven't been actually that many motions where there's been this sort of block mentality from either side. So if you actually look at how we have functioned as a council, considering we do come from different, representing different party agendas and different community groups, I think actually we have achieved an awful lot. And you have to remember it's only 2 years and 9 months. So we've achieved an amazing amount. And I mean, the reality is that politics, unfortunately, can be adversarial at times. And I think we need to be able to move beyond the politics and actually remember that we are actually here to serve our community and to find a solution that works for, sometimes you're going to have people that are a bit annoyed, or that's not going to suit everybody in the community, but that is best for the community. And that can be a really complex decision-making process. I think that if there is something that is very divisive, where it's sort of a half split vote, for me, I think it needs to go then back to the drawing table and actually have a really rethink about that, of something that would be more palatable for the community to accept, and to actually bring them along in the decision-making process. I think that would really help if we actually had the people there at the start. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. So we're getting close to, well, we're 1 minute from 9 o'clock, and I appreciate that it's been an intense session with questions being fired. I've tried where possible to have a variety of topics, and I apologise if you've put up a question and we didn't get to it, but I really wanted as many topics covered. The last one, which was asked very early on, and you can just do a very quick, I really want a real quick answer, is do all the candidates live in Central Ward, and or what's your connection to Central? So Bridget, quickly, a quick answer.
Yes, I've lived here for 25 years, and before that I bought my first unit here in the mid-1980s. So I've been here for over sort of 30 years all up, but 25 in the last lump, and all in Central Ward. Yes. Okay.
Caleb.
Yes, I live in Central Ward, near the canopy. It's a great spot. We walk to school with my son, and that's where pretty much the entire Lane Cove Public School catchment is based in Central Ward. So I have a strong connection to many families within Central Ward that is good. And yeah.
Thank you. Kathy.
Yes, I live in Central Ward. I live in Riverview. We were drawn here to the bushland, to be honest. And following that, then, though, we became involved in St Michael's School. And we're continuing to live here. So yeah, we haven't been here as long as Bridget, but we've been here coming up to 13 years. And I'm not sure we're going to be going anywhere else.
Ken.
For a while.
As the crow flies, I probably live about 50 metres from Central Ward. And I've lived here for 30 years. I probably visit Central Ward almost daily. And whether it's going to the shops or on my way to work or on the way home from work, I have a dinghy down at Woodford Bay. And so I'm a regular visitor down there as well.
Thank you. Look, I'm going to call time on the forum because even though there's so many more questions, yeah, there are lots of questions, but unfortunately we can't get to them all. But I do appreciate you all making time to come to this forum. I think it's really important that people get to hear you and put a face to the even though you've got your little pamphlets that have your face, it's nice to see you talking. So I would like to thank all of the candidates for being so open, honest, and really informative. I would like to thank all of the people who have participated and asked questions. I really do apologise if I didn't get to everybody, but there is a limit of the number of questions I can ask. All I can say is thank you very much. And this session has been recorded and it will be uploaded tonight, if I get around to it, if not first thing in the morning, and look forward to speaking to all of the candidates for the rest of the election campaign, and see you at pre-poll. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
It was a good discussion.
Yes.